Welcome back, TikTok, to our Integral Lead podcast, Leading with a Purpose, where leadership isn't just a job, it's a lifestyle. I'm your host, Christopher, the owner and CEO of the company. Last week, we talked about the foundation of leadership. We kind of talked about our website. I showed you all the different services that we have. And this time we're going to dive into the engine behind every decision that you make, every conversation you have, every moment you show up for your team, your overall identity as a leader. This episode is one of my favorites because once you understand your identity, everything else becomes clearer. Your communication, your confidence, your consistency, your culture, all of it. And if you want to go even further, the four C's: your communication, your creativity, your curiosity, and your compassion. All of it starts right here. Why does leadership identity matter? Well, let's start with the big question. Why? Right? That's the most important question. Is identity drives your behavior. If you're going to lead by example, if you're going to create chaos, if you're going to be a hands-on type of leader, your team's going to notice that. They're going to see those things and they're going to follow your lead one way or the other. Behavior also drives culture. If you're in your office all day, if you're not paying any attention, not listening, not adapting, you can't expect your team to do the same thing because they're going to learn from you, they're going to see your actions, and then culture drives outcomes. This one is especially important because culture is everything about an organization, right? If you have a bad culture, you're more than likely going to have bad leadership. You're more than likely going to have what you would call bad employees, a bad team. So in order to change those behaviors and those cultures, you need to change the identity of yourself as a leader. If your identity is shaky, your leadership will be shaky. If your identity is strong and compassionate, your leadership becomes magnetic. It's the force that's going to drive everything else to go in. And I'm going to give a real moment from my own journey. It's when I started Integral Lead Solutions back in 2025. I had to make a decision that scared me, really. It was stepping away from the comfort of a regular paycheck, a consistent workflow, knowing what I was going to do every day, knowing where I was going to be every day, knowing that my bills were going to be paid, my kids were going to be taken care of, all of that. That's what I had. That was my life. But that wasn't enough for me. I didn't want it wasn't about money. I wanted to do something more. I wanted to help organizations see what leadership should be because of my experience with bad leaders in the past. Um, so yeah, it came from my identity, right? It wasn't a strategy move. It was my identity. My identity is knowing who I am and what I stand for. And I don't believe in micromanaging. I believe in macro managing. Especially in business environments and other industries where everyone who's working there is an adult. They know what they have to do, and their behavior and their workflow and their ethic comes down to the leadership. Again, that comes back to identity, right? If they have a leader with bad identity, then the employees are going to have bad identities. So it all starts from the top. And so when I started Integral Lead Solutions, like I said, it was scary. It was a big move. And I had to do it, and it's been amazing creating these podcast episodes. It's been amazing creating all my documents and the framework and sharing it with everybody. It's been fantastic, and it's been one heck of a journey, and I wouldn't have changed it for a world. And that was my identity. My identity was to sacrifice my comfort and sacrifice my known world to create something more for others in hopes that they can improve and be happier and less stressful at work. Um, so then we get into what is the psychology of identity. And it comes back to a quote that I like. It's called identity. Identity isn't random, it's built. You don't just wake up one day and have an identity. And you can't just you can't just look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and say, my identity today is going to be friendly, or my identity today is going to be a go-getter. You have to build that, and it takes time to build that. Um, it's built from experiences that you might have had. Again, I've had bad leaders in the past that were very micromanagement and wanted to be in my business and look over my shoulder every move I made. And honestly, all that did was make me want to work less hard, do less. Went from go from doing 200 documents to the bare minimum of 60. But if they would just let me, if they would just let you go on your own and do what you're supposed to do, you know what you're supposed to do, it would be fine. Productivity wouldn't get messed with. It's also built from your values. How are you as a person? Are you compassionate? Are you a jerk? Do you treat people well? Do you not treat people well? Those are the values that help you build your identity as well. Your wins, right? Everybody loves to celebrate the wins. The wins are easy to celebrate. Um, most people, I'd say everybody, can take their wins and turn it into some type of success story, and the way that they created things and made it easy for themselves. Another identity psychology is your losses. Now, that one's not as easy as wins, right? Losses, they're tough. You don't really want to think about them. You don't really want to go back and relive them. But the losses, that is truly what makes your identity, right? Because no one's perfect. There's going to be losses. You're going to lose something at some point in your life, professionally. And it's how you take those losses and learn from those losses and put them back into wins, right? You can turn those losses into wins easily. One of our foundations with the whole thing is, if you make a mistake at work, right? We feel like, as a leader, the person who made a mistake shouldn't be punished, or written up, or even fired. They should be talked to and discussed together in a private environment, one on one. What mistake was made? How can they fix the mistake or prevent the mistake from happening in the past? And what can I do as a leader to help you not make that mistake again? And then you just encourage them that making those mistakes is not a bad thing. Also, another psychological part for your identity is mentors, right? Have you had good leaders in the past? Do you have good leaders now? Are you the mentor? Are you a good leader? Like, those people that you work for that have touched you are going to shape you in one way or another. And those are positive influences. Your environment is another one, right? Um, Positive environments can make you a positive leader, a positive person. Negative environments, you're more likely to leave, which is going to lead to high turnover rate, employee dissatisfaction, high stressed environments, a lot more call-offs, people saying they're sick when they're not. And you just got to provide that environment. And then your expectations, both the ones placed on you and the ones you placed on yourself. My expectations for this podcast is to some people may think it's to make sales and to earn your business, but that's a small portion of it. My expectation is to touch someone. If I have 5,000 people that watch this podcast, if one person walks away and takes something of what I said and applies that into their leadership life, I did my job and I'm satisfied with it. That is my expectation. And it's a very small expectation, I know, but that's my expectation for myself. Expectations placed on me by my team and my people that work for me, my sales team, it's probably a lot higher. They probably expect me to give them the stuff that they need, provide for them, and offer them help and assistance, which we do on a daily basis here at Integrity Solutions anyway. So now I need everyone to just kind of slow down, including myself, because I know I talk fast. Blame it on my aunt. Think about the first time someone called you a leader. I mean, it doesn't even got to be my boss or my manager. It can be a supervisor. Maybe you're a back office lead in a medical facility. Maybe you're the head nurse. Maybe you were the captain of the football team. Maybe you're Michael Jordan, everybody else is Scottie Pippen, and you're just like, and someone called you that, And think about it. And when someone genuinely looked at you and said, you are a leader, or I'm going to follow you, or I'm going to be like you. And then that moment did something to you, didn't it? It planted a seed. It shifted your internal narrative. It probably took you from, I'm just here at work today and I'm just going to do what I got to do, to, oh my God, these people are, my team's actually listening to me. They're understanding what I'm saying. They're following my lead. Maybe I should work harder, push faster, strive to be more, so that they also want to do those same things. Because in my opinion, you can't be a leader if your main goal is not to see the others below you improve and become leaders themselves. And if they don't want to become leaders, at least they have the knowledge to know that they can be if they want to be. That is our goal at Integrity Solutions anyway, is to make leaders out of non-leaders, and give them the want to do that, or give them the skills that when that time comes, they are ready and they will hit the ground rolling. The four C's of leadership identity. How do my four C's work into the identity of your leadership, right? So there's communication, right? You don't gotta be the best communicator. You don't gotta be an above average communicator. You just gotta communicate. You gotta make sure the expectations are there. You got to make sure you relay those expectations in a manner that everyone's going to understand and respect. You got to be an adaptive listener and let them communicate with you as well, and show them that your identity is of that of caring communication. Again, you don't have to send an email every 5 minutes to remind people, but you just have to communicate. And then how does creativity fall into your identity as a leader, right? Well, this is two tier, right? You want to be, as a leader, you want to be creative. So you want to be able to come up with creative solutions and innovative ideas that benefit the team overall, not just you or not just the revenue. You want to make sure everybody is together and on the same page and collaborating perfectly. And so you want to be creative that way. But you also, as a leader, want to open the floor for your team's innovations and your team's creativity. They're the ones on the. I'm gonna use a shop or a warehouse. For a manufacturing facility as an example, right? Most managers and leaders, they're sitting in an office looking at the computer, getting data, and trying to make decisions based off of that. But with creativity, if you're a leader and you're allowing your team to be innovative and creative, they're on the floor every day trying to find smarter ways to get more work done. Why not listen to them? Why not open your ears and your mind to try these different things? They may work, they may not. But if you allow them to present those ideas to you, you welcome those ideas, and you attempt to try those ideas, that's going to go a long way in your leadership identity. And then we get to creativity. How is creativity going to help with your leadership identity, right? I mean, not creativity, sorry, curiosity. I did creativity twice. Curiosity. Curiosity is a big one because as leaders, our job is to make sure the information that we give to our team is the right information. How do we get the right information? We got to ask the right questions. We don't just ask questions, we have to ask the right questions. And asking the right questions and involving your team in the decisions based on those questions is how curiosity can help with your leadership identity. And then, of course, there's compassion. How can compassion affect your leadership identity? I mean, it's common sense, right? Just be a nice person, be respectful, understand that people come from many various backgrounds, understand those backgrounds, understand that not everybody is the same, everybody's different, people learn different, people talk different, people communicate different, people dress different. And you, as a leader, it's your job to understand that, to know that, to respect that, and do your best to come up with creative innovations to make it to where everybody feels safe and psychologically welcome under your leadership. So then now we got identity versus ego. This is a big one because they kind of go hand in hand, but they're completely total opposites, right? Like a bad ego can give you a bad identity, and a good ego can give you a good identity. But it's very hard to have a bad ego and a good identity. It's really, they go hand in hand, but they don't mesh when it comes to being positive. So here's what we got to say about ego. Ego, it protects your image, right? It protects the image of the individual. It protects the leader. It protects the shareholders. It protects the CEO. It protects the owners. It protects human resources. It protects supervisors, shift leads, all that stuff. Identity protects the purpose. Identity is going to protect the vision, the purpose of the company, the productivity, the stress, the turnover rate. Identity is going to protect all of those things. Ego says, I need to look right. So there's some mistakes happening over here. I'm going to go over there, and I'm just going to let them work themselves out. I'm not getting involved in that. It's too dramatic. It's below me. That's a shop floor levels type situation, so I'm just gonna let it happen. Whereas identity says, I need to do what's right. Obviously, there's an issue. I need to figure out what that issue is. I need to help solve that issue, and we need to, repair the problem before it becomes even more of a problem. Is it affecting productivity? If so, how can we make up for the productivity that was lost? Is it causing two of my team members to fight and bicker and not get along? If so, where do I need to move someone or move people in order to fix the problem so it doesn't become a bigger problem in the Fed? We don't want to lose anybody over it, so how are we going to fix it? Ego is loud. Ego is, and by loud, I don't mean like yelling at the top of your lungs loud. I mean like it's chaos. It's all over the place. There's no consistency, lacks in communication, not welcoming creativity, not asking the right curious questions, and not being a compassionate person. It's loud. You don't listen. You don't focus on what's important. You just pretty much do what's best for you and what's best for your bosses. But identity is steady. Identity is stable. Identity is calming. It's knowing that everybody's on the same page. It's knowing that the culture is meshing perfectly. It's knowing that the framework in place is working, and the team knows what their expectations are. The leadership knows what their expectations are for them and for giving, receiving and giving expectations. So I'll be real with you. There have been moments where my ego tried to hijack my leadership. I'm not gonna lie. My last job, I was really good at processing medical records, and I got to a point where I'm just like, no one else is doing anything. I'm doing 200 of these bad boys, and everybody else is doing 50. Like, what am I doing here? Why am I even doing this? And I would say things to people, and they would get mad, and they would get upset, and their 50 would drop down to 20 just because they felt targeted. And I realized that it felt targeted like that, and I told myself I'm not going to be like that no more as a leader, as a business owner, trying to share my leadership knowledge and framework with other companies and organizations and people. That was the bad move, and it was one moment in my career that I wish I could take back, acting like that and letting my ego get the best of me. I'm more of an identity guy, not an ego guy, and I teach that to companies all over the place. And then here's identity and conflict. Conflict exposes identity. It reveals who you really are when the pressure hits, right? A big thing here at Integrity Solutions is coaching and teaching adaptability. Things happen. Things change. That's never gonna be different. Things are always going to change. Unexpected occurrences are going to happen. There's no getting around it. And it doesn't matter the industry. It doesn't matter the company size. It doesn't matter the person. It doesn't matter your GPA. It doesn't matter anything. Nothing like that matters. Those are going to happen. Things happen, and sometimes we have no control about them happening. And those are the types of situations that are really going to be our identity in conflict. How are we going to handle the situation without making it worse, right? So as leaders, we gotta go in, and we can't be biased. We have to be unbiased. We have to be non-judgmental. We have to investigate. We have to learn what happened, why it happened, who started it, why, whatever it is. Why is productivity down? Why is this customer not returning? Why are we getting one-star reviews on Google? Why is this patient getting sicker? Like, these are all things, like, as leaders, that they're considered conflicts, and we have to figure out what they are and how we handle those. That is our identity. But most leaders default to one of the three following responses. They protect, which means they shut down, they panic, they don't know what to do. They project, right? They push blame outwards on someone else. Whereas a good leader is going to know, like, we're a team. Everything they're doing, I taught them, or I've been along with them for the ride. So it's my fault, not their fault. And then the last one is progress. They learn, they lean in and grow. So most leaders that we want to build are progressive. In conflict, we want them to lean into the situation. Yes, I don't know exactly what happened, but it's my fault because I didn't have them ready for this change, or I didn't have them ready for this conflict. And then together as a team, we're going to probably have a identity and conflict meeting, and we're going to figure out what happened, why it happened, how can we fix it, how can we prevent it from happening again. And then you got to think to yourself, as a leader, which one do you default to? Are you a protector? Are you a projector? Or are you a progressor? And really think about it, because you might think you're a progressor, but if you dive deep inside, maybe you shut down and you thought you were being progressive, but you really weren't. And then as a non-leader, as a team member who might be tuning into this, what would you default to, or what does your supervisor default to? You can drop it in the chat. You can just think about it silently to yourself and just take a moment to reflect that. Um, and then if you're tuning in to later after I post a recording on TikTok and YouTube, you can write it down. Awareness is the first step to growth. So if you do have an issue, if you are a protector or projector, be aware that you're that kind of person, that you're that kind of leader, and make the adjustment and grow and start becoming more of a progressor. And then what is identity and decision making, right? Your identity determines how you make decisions, and that is true. That is a 100% true factor, true statement. It doesn't matter. That's always going to be there. That is a consistent. If your identity is rooted in fear, that goes back to protecting, right? If your identity is rooted in fear, your decisions will be very cautious. And very cautious decisions are not very creative. They're not very compassionate. They're not very curious. And more likely than not, there's not going to be much communication, right? Because you're being very cautious of it. You don't want to make it worse. You're scared to make that jump, and that's fine that you don't want to do that. But there's lingering long-term issues that can arise from that. If your identity is rooted in insecurity, your decisions will be inconsistent. You got to take chances, and if you're going to take chances only half the time, then you're going to be inconsistent, and that's not going to look good in the long run as well. So if you're going to be a chance taker, be a chance taker. Do it all the time, and just as long as you communicate that with your team, then they're going to expect you to do those kinds of things, and it's not going to matter if your chance fails, because they know that you're taking chances and that you're trying, and no one's gonna hesitate for a second if there's communication and everyone's on the same page about it. If your identity is rooted in clarity, your decisions will be confident. Confident decisions are good decisions. Confident decisions may not always be the popular decision, but they should be the right decision. And then if your identity is rooted on purpose, your decisions will be bold. This kind of goes with insecurity and being consistent, right? If you're going to be consistently on purpose, that means your decisions are going to be bold. They might seem out of the box or unordinary, but if those are the decisions that you are making and your team knows you're making them and they expect you to make them, then there's nothing wrong with a failure in that sense, because everyone's expecting you to take the chance. And if you fail, then you regroup and you learn from it in the future. Now, take your time, slow down again. If you're live in the chat, think about the last decision you made that scared you. What part of your identity influenced that decision? Was it fear, insecurity, clarity, or purpose? And if you're live in the chat, go ahead and type it in. Share it with the group. If you're tuning in later, think about it quietly to yourself, and then decide if maybe the scary decision wasn't so scary if you tried a different one. So if you made your decision in fear, maybe try thinking about that same decision if you did it with purpose or did it with clarity, and see if it changes your mindset a little bit. And now, how is your identity determined in team culture? Your identity becomes the team's identity. We kind of talked about this at the beginning of the episode. If you're inconsistent, your team's inconsistent. If you're reactive, your team's reactive. If you're clear, they're clear. If you're calm, they're calm. If you're purpose-driven, the team's purpose-driven. Leadership identity is contagious. Your team learns more from your behavior than your words. So we can, all day long, we can sit in the boardroom and we can go over slides, and you can read the manuals and the rules and the expectations and the guidelines and expectations and all that stuff. But if you're reading all of that, watching all of that, preparing for all of that, but then you have a leader who isn't doing any of that, it tends to kind of take away everything that we just learned, everything that we just watched, all the time we just spent trying to understand all of that, and it kind of just throws it out the window. And that kind of goes back to what we were saying with being on the same page with communication, right? And with culture being consistent, you can't teach the team members one thing if your leaders are doing another, and if your CEOs are doing another, and if your owners are doing another. Everyone's got to be on the same page in order for culture changes and leadership changes to work. Here's a quick little reflection exercise. Let's end with 3 reflection questions. Okay? And again, these questions were designed for leaders. If you're not a leader, that's okay. You can still answer these questions. You can say, who am I becoming as a leader? Who am I becoming as a future leader? Who am I becoming as an individual? Who am I becoming as a teammate? You can change it to just about anything: husband, wife, mother, father, uncle, aunt, grandma, grandpa. You can change that word leader to anything. You can add any words you want before leader, um, future leader, potential leader. Am I promotable? Who am I becoming as a promotable person? I mean, you can change it to whatever you want. So let's. Who am I becoming as a leader? What part of my identity do I need to strengthen? And what part of my identity do I need to retire? Write those down, sit with them, because to be honest with you, identity work is deep. It's something that it's kind of like if I came into a company to change their culture. I can't do it in a day. Um, I can get a lot of data in a day. I can get a lot of information in a day, but I can't change the culture and build a new culture and teach a new culture in a day. It takes time, you know? And same with identity. You're not just going to sit down and write down a bunch of your thoughts on a piece of paper and then say, I got it, I'm good, I'm going to be switched. No, it's a lot of hard work. It's like a diet, right? If you eat healthy for a week and then go back to eating McDonald's, the diet didn't really work. And it's the same thing with identity as a leader. You can't just work on it half the time and expect for it to work doubly as fast or quicker or whatever it may be. So yeah, just put in the work, write them down, think about it. Especially questions 2 and 3. Those are very, very, very important. Um, they go hand in hand with knowing who you're going to be as a leader. Are you going to be a micromanager leader? Are you going to be a macro manager leader? Are you going to be a progressive leader or a scared leader? Like those are all things that you can do. And also, we do offer operational effectiveness assessments that we can give that help you determine what kind of leader you are if you're unsure and what kind of organization you have and culture that you have. There is a link underneath my video here to our website. We went over it last week. There's a page on there for operational effectiveness assessments. It gives you more information about what's included in that, how it works, how we handle the situations, how the scoring goes, all of that. You can also, on there's a booking link. You can also book with us to get more of a 30-minute to 45-minute consultation to see if there's any way we can help. We not only offer to businesses, but we also offer to individuals as well, one-on-one leadership coaching. And then that is it. That is the end of episode number 2 that we call Leadership Identity. Next week, we are going to dive into leadership communication. That is one of the 4 C's, communication. It's going to pretty much just be a reflection on current communication standards and what current communication looks like using outdated leadership methods with macro managers and companies who don't have good cultures compared to how leadership communication can look if you're more sustainable with a good framework in place, good leaders in place, and using our 4 C's of sustainable leadership. And then the next step is learning how to express the communication, how to learn the communication, and how to grow in your communication. If you're listening live, drop your 4 C's, drop your favorite of the 4 C's in the chat. Communication, creativity, curiosity, compassion. Explain why it's your favorite, why you might excel at it, and then drop one that you might want to work on. It may lead to a phone call and we can discuss what's going on. Again, my name is Chris. I am the owner and CEO of Integra Lead Solutions. This has been episode 2 of Leading with a Purpose. Thank you for joining us live, and hope you learned something a little bit today. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.